Okay, everyone, good afternoon. So, yesterday, or I can say the last session, I have taken the nitrogen cycle and I have gone into what are the dimensions of environmental impacts of nitrogen cycle on our environment, and in that context, I have discussed about International Nitrogen Initiative, then about Indian initiative. Now what I'll do here today, I'll first discuss carbon cycle, and then we'll go to the problems which are part of carbon cycle, like ocean acidification. We'll discuss about climate change. So we'll connect all the areas together in the class, right? So let us first go into this carbon cycle, right? Biogeochemical cycle or carbon cycle, that becomes really very important. Every living organism, whether man or plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, you take any animal or any plant or any microorganism, all are made of carbon. All living organisms contain carbon, right? Because the body made of organic matter, so carbohydrate, protein, lipids, nucleic acids, DNA, RNA, all contain carbon, right? So without carbon, nothing will exist. Soil has a carbon, air has got carbon dioxide gas, right? Even water has a dissolved carbonate, bicarbonate ions. So that's what carbon cycle becomes very important for biosphere, for our earth. Let's understand first key points, then we'll connect with the other areas there. First point is that it has a two phase, short term and long term. Whenever we look into carbon cycle, we can divide into two phases, short term and long term. Short term, it is continuous, which happens continuously. Long term takes hundred thousands of years. That's where so here this continuously place, and carbon gets cycled. We'll see with examples. Where long term, it takes a long time interval for its cycling. Right? We'll focus on both of them. Short term and long term both we'll see in the classroom there. So here long term, like for example, I'll give you example, fossil fuel, coal, hydrocarbons, right? That fossil fuel is made by long time period. It doesn't happen immediately. When the dead plants get buried into the earth under high temperature pressure, thousands of years, that carbonic matter, the coal, that gets formed, fossil fuel is formed. So it takes a time, right? It doesn't happen immediately, it takes time. Slowly it takes place there, right? But when you take photosynthesis, respiration, all this happens continuously, right? It continuously takes place there. So we'll see, that's what I've said, that depending on the time interval, how the carbon gets cycled, we can divide into two phases, short term, long term. Let's first look at the short term part of the cycle, right? So if we take short term cycle here, you all know that, for example, carbon dioxide gas in the atmosphere, right? CO2 gas in the atmosphere, that is taken by green plants, then algae, right? Not only algae, even cyanobacteria, blue-green algae or cyanobacteria like nostoc, anabaena. Then we have also discussed that phytoplanktons like diatoms in the water bodies. So they take CO2 gas in the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. Now what is photosynthesis? You all know that 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water, sunlight. Every textbook of biology you will be seeing this reaction there. Sunlight, and very important molecule is a chlorophyll. Chlorophyll pigment, that molecule within the cell of the plant or diet of whatever, it forms the glucose, 6H12O6, plus it also release oxygen. The glucose is formed, right? So glucose, or this is where it is formed here, right? So we come across such kind of a formation. This is glucose, sugar, which is formed. So what we require is a raw material. Raw material is carbon dioxide gas, CO2 gas, which is taken from atmosphere. Now what happens there? This will enter the food chain. It becomes the part of food chains. Herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, all different types of animals which are cannot make their. So here we are talking about producers. These are the producers. These are the producers, right? Now the consumers. Consumers will take all this, let's say here, which you all know that, herbivores, then carnivores, omnivores, right? All this which take as a food. So that is a consumer. It goes to the consumer. So carbon, you can say carbon gets fixed, is a carbon fixation. Carbon get fixed. It becomes the part of animal organic matter, carbohydrate, right? It becomes converted into all such kind of biological materials in animals. Now what is another thing here? Now two things will happen here. So let's say there is a process called respiration. Respiration. Or I'll do one thing here. I'll add here this one. Even the plant also carries out respiration. Respiration. Now what is respiration? Respiration is a process where the food, the glucose which is taken, that in presence of air and oxygen get broken down, right, into carbon dioxide and water vapor, and it gives us energy. We get the energy called ATP. So plants, animals, bacteria, fungi, whatever, they receive the energy from the process of respiration. So what is respiration here? Respiration is where glucose, C6H12O6, in presence of oxygen, right, 6 molecules of oxygen, gets broken down into 6 molecules of CO2 plus 6 molecules of water vapor, plus it releases energy called ATP, 32 ATP. And where it takes place, there is a special cell organelle called mitochondria, which is called powerhouse of the cell. So within mitochondria of the cell, where the glycolysis, the glucose get broken down, and the release of energy, ATP, right? Now what comes here? This glucose as a food, taken as a food, gets broken down and releases carbon dioxide, CO2, which go to the atmosphere. Here it goes to the atmosphere. It goes to the atmosphere there, back to the atmosphere. This is short term, which continuously occur, continuously takes place. ये लगातार होता रहता है, right? Another thing is that when the plants and animals die, right? I'll do one thing more. Same diagram, let it place here. when plants and animals die, death of plants and animals, right? Let's say when the plants die, diatom dies, phytoplankton die, right? When the plants and animals are, they die there, death and decomposition. Death and decomposition, where bacteria, fungi will break down. So what will happen here? Another thing will be here. It will release carbon to the soil. It goes to the soil. When the plants and animals die, bacteria and fungi will break down. So in the soil, carbon will come there. Dead plant matter, dead animal matter, release soil there. At the same time, this decomposition by bacteria. There are certain type of bacteria, aerobic bacteria. This bacteria will not only break down and release this carbon to the soil, but bacteria will also be able to break down and release CO2 to the atmosphere. So also here decomposition also led to release of CO2 to the atmosphere, carbon dioxide gas to the atmosphere. It also results into that release of CO2 gas to the atmosphere, that also takes place there. It is done through the microorganisms. See, one is that when dead plant or animals are broken down, soil will get carbon. Second thing, what happens here? Second thing, those bacteria which work on those organic matter, break down the organic matter, will also release CO2 gas to the atmosphere. Again, it goes to the atmosphere, right? Now, what will be another thing? Decomposed plant matter, which will get buried under the earth, slowly will convert into there's something called carbonization, mineralization. With the extreme pressure and temperature, will become fossil fuel. But what I have written here now, this is short term. This is short term part of cycle. Fossil fuel, coal and all will be long term. I will be coming to that also, that how long term cycle work. But this is the short term which I have mentioned here. Are you all able to understand here? So first I am teaching you theory part, then I'll go to the part of advanced area. We'll see the global warming, climate change, ocean acidification, right? This has to be at the back of the mind. Carbon cycle should be at the back of the mind. And I told you that in the prelims exam or mains exam, see prelims exam, particularly for prelims exam, not in the mains exam. Mains exam will not ask carbon cycle, but you don't know the evolving pattern of the UPSC exam. UPSC can do anything, can ask anything. But in the prelims exam, the theoretical part has to be understood and remembered. And I'm very sure you all have read about carbon cycle. आप सभी को कार्बन साइकिल स्कूल डेज से कॉलेज में सब पता है ये क्या है, बस उसको केवल ध्यान में रखना है ना. तो ये शॉर्ट टर्म का एक पार्ट है. एनी डाउट यू हैव व्हाट आई ड्रॉन द डायग्राम? Then I'll go to next part of the carbon cycle. No doubt. And again I'll request all of you to keep on writing this. Sir. Yes.
Sir, after the death of the plants and those animals, sir, when carbon is released in the soil, then after that, in respiration form, it goes in the atmosphere only.
Yes. Yes, in the respiration form where bacteria respire. So bacteria will release CO2 to the atmosphere. You are correct. You are very correct. You are right.
Okay.
And again, keep on writing this. Whatever I'm writing, you will ask me to stop for some time. I'll wait for all of you so that it becomes a part of your class notes. See, videos, recorded videos, you are getting there. But the problem is that before the exam, you will not be able to see recorded videos. है ना, एग्ज़ाम से पहले सारा रिकॉर्डेड वीडियोस 2-2 घंटे का 2.5 घंटे का देखना आसान नहीं होता है, क्योंकि आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट, क्योंकि मुझे पता होता है कि बच्चों को प्रेशर होता है ना उस टाइम पे एग्ज़ाम के पहले, तो आप बहुत सारे वीडियो नहीं देख सकते. बट क्या होता है कि आपके नोट कॉपी में 3-4 पेज है, तो यू कैन ईजिली रिवाइज. ओके, अच्छा ये दिस आर द थिंग्स आई हैव रेड इन द क्लासरूम. तो वो क्या होता है 5-10 मिनट के अंदर रिवीजन हो जाता है. ठीक है, तो इसलिए मैं आई ऑलवेज कीप ऑन सेइंग, ऑल्दो दिस क्लास इज ऑनलाइन, बट यू मस्ट नोट इट डाउन, राइट? यू मस्ट राइट इट डाउन इन सम फॉर्म. If you're done, then I'll go to the next page. I'm looking at your chat box also. If you're done, you can write there yes or done, so then I can understand that I have to move to the next part of it. Okay, good, very good, excellent. So now let's look at the next one here. See what comes here. This is what I've explained. Now what I'm now going to the next part of it is that carbon dioxide gas, right? As I've mentioned that there are some natural processes also there, like you know that volcanic eruption, volcano. So when volcano erupt, CO2 gas is released to the atmosphere. Volcanic eruption. Then you know that sometimes burning of let's say bushfire, sometimes wildfire, forest and all, the wildfire where the forest burns, forest fire and all, right? Wildfire, because now because of climate change, what is happening because of climate change, that extreme heat, temperature, that release this kind of the burning process. So again will release CO2 gas, will also release the CO2 gas to the atmosphere. Sometimes we, like human beings, now if you look at another thing is what this is natural processes. But sometimes anthropogenic, human based activities, anthropogenic processes. Suppose I'll write here, suppose that the factory, chimneys of the factory, right, where the gases come out. Then that vehicular emission, this vehicular emission. So let's say industry, steel manufacturing or any industrial unit, vehicles, right, vehicles. Then again that in cooking, right, that cooking, in terms of cooking where we use fuel wood and all this, cook stoves and all, burning of biomass, right? Sometime man may also burn the agriculture residues and all. अभी जो बर्निंग ऑफ गार्बेज जो आता है, अभी जो न्यूज़ में है ना कोची, दैट इन केरला, कोची में गार्बेज डंप यार्ड जो है, गार्बेज को जला दिया है ना, या बायोमास जो बर्न कर रहे हैं. All this again will release what? Will release CO2 gas. Again, CO2 gas is released to the atmosphere. I know there are a lot of human activities. Thermal power plant, you know that TPP, thermal power plant, where we generate electricity. Thermal power plant, where we burn the coal, thermal power generation. Again, you know that we again burn coal, and again all this is smoke, carbon dioxide goes to the atmosphere, right? And again this CO2 will be captured in photosynthesis. Again the same, here this CO2 gas in the atmosphere will be taken by green plants and all, phytoplanktons, algae and all this. So again that will, so this is another process, burning of biomass, burning of fossil fuels. So I'll write here, so let's say here volcanic eruption, right? Volcanic eruptions, burning of agriculture residue or biomass, burning of fuel wood, then industrial processes, vehicular emission, right? Vehicular emissions. Then another thing, you know that thermal power plants, all those human activities, etc., right, release carbon dioxide gas to atmosphere. It goes to the atmosphere, right? It becomes a part of the, again it becomes a part of the atmosphere and all. So there it goes to the, back to the, again atmosphere and all. Again this is short term. What I am discussing here is a short term part of the carbon cycle, right? Again this is the way the carbon again gets circulated, right? It becomes a part of the environment there. All right. So now total 23 people are there. So again I have seen that more or less same people are coming every day. So that is really good because you have a consistency there. अब कुछ लोग हैं जो कुछ दिन आते हैं फिर गायब हो जाते हैं. But I found this 24 people continuously attending the class. That's really good. Very good. Keep it up. आज का क्लास important है. Today's class is very important. I'm slowly building up the concept. One by one, we will see every aspect of it. Clear there? This is a very simple one. You all understood it, right? Yes. And when I'll come to Kolkata, I'll meet you all. Whenever I will be coming now. Now, FT Plus, I will be continuously be the part of it. So, for the last 1 year, I was totally stuck up in Delhi and big institute, but now I have made up my mind to again go around. मुझे घूमना बहुत पसंद है और खाना पीना बहुत पसंद है. Right? I enjoy food and traveling. So कोविड के टाइम में था इसलिए थोड़ा रेस्ट्रिक्शन था. अब पता नहीं फिर से वापस कोविड का आ रहा है. आई डोंट नो द केसेस. कोलकाता में है कोविड का केसेस, वापस भी न्यूज़ में आ रहा है 18,000 केसेस. हाँ टुडे
nearly 2,500 cases.
अरे बाबा,
all over India.
ओ बाबा, अरे बाबा, नहीं कल तक भी 18,000 था. अभी नया ओमिक्रॉन का वेरिएंट है ना, दैट न्यू वेरिएंट ऑफ ओमिक्रॉन, दैट इज नाउ मेकिंग हेडलाइंस. गॉड फॉरबिड दैट इट रिमेन्स अंडर कंट्रोल. वही है कि ये कंट्रोल में रहना बहुत ज़रूरी है, बिकॉज वी डोंट वांट टू गो बैक टू अगेन दैट सेम 2 years. 2 साल जो सिचुएशन था 2020, 21, 22 बहुत ही बैड पीरियड था. सो उम्मीद करते हैं कि इट इज़ रिमेन्स कंट्रोल देयर, एंड दैट कैन बी डन ओनली विद द पीपल सपोर्ट, मास्क एंड ऑल थिंग. तो वो चीज़ है वहाँ पर. लेट्स सी देयर. मैं इसलिए ट्रैवल नहीं कर रहा था, बट नाउ आई हैव टू रिज्यूम माई ट्रैवलिंग, बट आई हैव टू टेक एक्स्ट्रा केयर. ठीक है. डन देयर. All of you have written? Yes, I'm looking at the chat box. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Good, very good. Now let's go to the next one. Next one is that very important thing I'm coming across here. CO2 gas in the atmosphere. Right, CO2 gas in the atmosphere. Sea and ocean, right? Oceans, vast oceans, sea and oceans, right? So the two things are there. One is that phytoplanktons, diatoms. Diatoms, which is a phytoplanktons, microscopic organisms. They are very, very small. So they take CO2 gas in photosynthesis. It carries out photosynthesis, right? Because they are producers. They are producers of marine environment. This sea and ocean, they are producers of marine environment. So they will take up the CO2. You also know coral. I have said coral has symbiotic algae which live inside the coral, and that algae captures CO2 gas. We have discussed about coral reef, so that comes into this. Now what is another thing which is very, very important one? Another thing is this one also. CO2 gas in the atmosphere also diffuse. You all know that sea water is saline. It contains salt. So what happens? There is something called here diffusion. The process of diffusion. Diffusion of CO2 gas. Ocean water, sea water, salt water absorb. There is something called diffusion, and then what happens with the diffusion? Not a diffusion, it also gets dissolved. Dissolution. It dissolves with the sodium, potassium, all this salt. So it converts into, when it dissolves with the water, do you know that? I'll write it here. What will happen here? When the water react with carbon dioxide gas, so it will form carbonic acid. This is the carbonic acid. This is called carbonic acid. So now this carbonic acid, right, when CO2 will dissolve with seawater, H2O, it will form carbonic acid. And then this will again react, this carbonic acid will react with the salt. Let's say sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is a salt, NaCl, which we eat, table salt. It will form what? It will form here NaSCO3, sodium bicarbonate plus HCl, hydrochloric acid. Again, you know, hydrochloric acid is a acid. It will form acid. So what happens here? It forms, when it dissolves, it forms carbonate ion, right? That is a CO3 2 minus, or bicarbonate ion, that is a this one. It is because of chemistry. chemistry with the water, SCO3 2 minus, bicarbonate ion. And this carbonate is very, very important. Why? Sometimes, you know, calcium ion, calcium carbonate, limestone, it form the skeleton. You know, sometimes marine animal may have outer hard shell, and that outer hard shell is made of calcium carbonate. मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ, आपको समझ में आएगा. शंख पता है ना, शंख, कौंच देखा है ना मंदिर में, हर जगह पे जो हम लोग बजाते हैं, देखा है कौंच क्या है, कहाँ से आता है कौंच? शंख बोलते हैं, शंख बजाते हैं ना, वो कहाँ से आता है शंख? एनिमल से आता है, इट कम्स फ्रॉम एनिमल, है ना, वो एनिमल से मिलता है. और आपने कई बार देखा होगा छोटा भी होता है, कई बार बहुत बड़ा भी होता है. अगर आपने कभी देखा होगा, दिस ऑल कॉन्च विल बी ऑल्सो वेरी बिग वन, वेरी बिग वन, दे विल ब्लो इट. और कई बार छोटा भी होता है. तो व्हाट इज दैट मेड अप ऑफ? वो किससे बना हुआ है? कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट से बना हुआ है. दैट इज मेड ऑफ कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट, है ना, लाइमस्टोन बोलते हैं. अगेन आई विल गिव अनदर एग्जांपल. कोरल रीफ, है ना, द रीफ where corals found to grow. So what is that reef made up of? That reef is made of calcium carbonate, that is limestone, चूना पत्थर बोलते हैं, उससे बना होता है. When and corals release that limestone, and that limestone cement together to form reef where corals are found to grow. Again, you know, some type of aquatic animal or marine animal like turtle, marine turtle, it has an outer shell. कछुआ का ऊपर देखा होगा जो बाहर में जो कवर होता है, तो वो भी हार्ड होता है. So again this carbonate, what I've drawn the diagram, that becomes very, very important, right? इसको कहते हैं acidification. See, the pH of sea water is not acidic, is alkaline. Why sea water is alkaline? Who will tell me? Sea water alkaline क्यों है? Why sea water is alkaline? Why sea water, ocean water is alkaline? Because of, yes, because of what? Salt है ना, सोडियम, पोटेशियम, कैल्शियम, मैग्नीशियम. बेस बोलते हैं, अल्कली बोलते हैं, अल्कली मेटल कहा जाता है इन केमिस्ट्री. तो दैट इज अल्कलाइन इन नेचर बिकॉज हायर परसेंटेज ऑफ कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ऑफ सॉल्ट. बट नाउ व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? बिकॉज ऑफ CO2 dissolved with water, which I have written here, chemical reaction, carbonic acid, so that make water acidic, and further it will react and release this one. तो एक चीज याद रखना है कि सी वाटर अल्कलाइन होता है, लेकिन जैसे जैसे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा CO2 एब्जॉर्ब होगा, तो धीरे 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 sea water will become acidic with time. So let's say higher CO2 gas, the higher absorption will be there. Now what I am coming here, almost, remember that, about 1/3 of atmospheric carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide gas is absorbed by the ocean, absorbed by oceans. We call it here carbon sink. Many times you have read this word, carbon sink. Ocean is a natural carbon sink. Imagine that 1/3 of CO2 gas in the atmosphere get captured by oceans, and the two processes are there. One, photosynthesis by algae and phytoplanktons, and second, direct diffusion and dissolution, right? This is also part of carbon cycle. This is a very important concept I have made you understand. We'll see the negative impact, don't worry. मैंने बताया ना कि I will discuss about climate change, global warming, ocean acidification. I'm going to discuss that. First, I am giving you general idea about carbon cycle. First, I'm making you understand what is carbon cycle. We'll see the negative impact. Are you able to understand the concept, this part of the carbon cycle? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You have to first understand. First, you have to understand the process. Then we'll see that what happens when more CO2 gas in the atmosphere and all. First, you have to basically understand what basically the processes are there. Now, anyone in the classroom who can tell me more process? I have discussed this one. I have discussed this one, volcanic eruption and all the natural process, and again human activities. I have discussed photosynthesis, respiration, right? Then I have discussed here ocean, carbon sink. Take up this one, right? Now my question: what are the other stages, other processes of carbon cycle? You all have read carbon cycle. Tell me. और क्या क्या है? Anyone in the classroom? प्रताप और क्या क्या इसमें प्रोसेस है?
Sir, sir, right now. Sir, freezing of polar ice भी हो सकता है.
कहाँ पर क्या चीज?
Freezing of polar ice.
Yes, that's right here. So Arctic and Antarctica. Polar ice. Arctic and Antarctica, this polar ice. So when they are formed, freezing of water to form ice. So what happened? This when it's formed there, it also results into this dry ice. So CO2 gas from the atmosphere, they get solidified. It's called solidified carbon dioxide gas. Within ice. Within ice it gets solidified. Same thing also happened with the mountain glaciers. Let's say Himalayan glaciers. So mountain glaciers, again when they freeze, then this dry ice is formed, solid carbon dioxide. And when it melt, melting of polar ice and glaciers, this dry ice again convert into carbon dioxide gas. It goes to the atmosphere. Again, it goes to the atmosphere. Within the ice, you have a solid CO2, and when the ice melt, again the CO2 will release back to the atmosphere. This is another part of the carbon cycle, right? Carbon cycle where it comes into that. Now we will come into the last part here. That's a long-term process. See, this is also long-term process. It keeps on forming, and then with slowly warming, CO2 get released. But we'll see the main long-term part of the cycle. Then we'll see the negative impacts and all. And then we'll see about UNFCCC, Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement. We'll look into the climate change aspect of this. I'll be going to all those areas there. Is it clear to all?
Sir,
Yes.
so can you explain how CO2 gas leads to formation of dry ice?
Simple thing. CO2 gas get freeze. Chemistry, simple chemical. Water when you take less than 0 degrees Celsius, the water becomes ice. Same way gas also can become, whether ammonia, you know, ammonia can be a gas form, ammonia can be liquid form also. There's something called freezing point. There's something called melting point. As the temperature will become -0, -10, -20, -30, and when the water get freeze into ice, so within that carbon dioxide gas will get into that. CO2 gas can also become like ice.
Okay, sir.
सिंपली ये समझना है, कोई भी गैस है ना, नाइट्रोजन हो, ऑक्सीजन हो, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड हो, कोई भी गैस है, वो लिक्विड फॉर्म में भी रह सकता है, सॉलिड फॉर्म में भी रह सकता है. वो डिपेंड करता है उसके टेम्परेचर पे. जैसे बोलते हैं ना बॉइलिंग पॉइंट लिक्विड का होता है. बॉइलिंग पॉइंट मतलब होता है कि वो जब वो बॉईल करेगा तो लिक्विड से वेपर बन जाएगा, है ना. फ्रीजिंग क्या होता है, जब वेपर से लिक्विड बनेगा और लिक्विड से सॉलिड. तो ये सब दिस आर द प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ गैसेस. इसलिए बताया ना व्हाट आई सेड हियर, environment ecology is a subject which requires all round of knowledge. You must be very good in science. Science is also very important. Biology, chemistry, all this comes into that. So now if you look at here, this one, dry ice. Even we can make dry ice. Even man can make dry ice. कई बार फैक्ट्रीज में, इंडस्ट्रीज में, होटल में, रेस्टोरेंट में ड्राई आइस होता है. ऐसा होता है. You can see the photograph. ये इस तरह से ड्राई आइस होता है, ऐसा होता है. ये बाजार में बिकता भी है. ये है मैनमेड, आर्टिफिशियली हम लोग बना सकते हैं. ये अब देखो यहाँ पर, ये है ना सारा जो है ड्राई आइस है. ये बाजार में बिकता है. ये हम लोग बनाते हैं. वी मेक इट देयर. वी मेक ड्राई आइस. इफ यू सी दिस वन, द ड्राई आइस हियर. सी हियर, व्हाट इज ड्राई आइस? द वर्ल्ड्स बेस्ट यहाँ पर चीज़ है. ये ड्राई आइस है, व्हाट यू कैन सी देयर, एंड इज गिवन हियर दिस वन. Right, we can cool it there. We can cool this kind of dry ice there. The short answer is that dry ice is the, see here what is given, dry ice is the solid form of carbon dioxide. अगर temperature will become less than 0 degrees Celsius, that carbon dioxide gas will convert into solid form. You can see here, this is given here. CO2 gas that scientists out there, now see, put into water to make seltzer. Now another cheese है, the gas is pressurized and cooled to form a liquid in large metal mold. ये artificially we make that. Then frozen and cut to create blocks or pellets of dry ice. ये हम लोग खुद से बनाते हैं. This is the man-made process where we make dry ice. But when I am talking about carbon cycle, I am talking about the natural process. क्या होता है आर्टिक एंटार्क्टिका में? Temperature will become very low. There temperature will be very very low, -30, -40 degree Celsius. So naturally, automatically, CO2 gas in the air will get frozen into solid CO2 within the ice-like structure. That is called as a dry ice. Yeah, now see here, around this much temperature, -110 degree Fahrenheit, right? CO2 becomes a solid. Is in Fahrenheit temperature minus, है ना, -30 वगैरह जो है दैट कम। तो हम ड्राई आइस बना सकते हैं, खुद से भी बना सकते हैं। और वहाँ क्या हो रहा है, आर्टिक अंटार्कटिका में नेचुरली वहाँ टेम्परेचर -30 -40 डिग्री सेल्सियस होता है, तो जो एयर में CO2 गैस है वो फ्रीज होके ड्राई आइस बनता है। इज एज सिंपल एज दैट। This is artificial way of making, which I've said here, and here I'm talking about natural process. This is natural process where temperature is sub-zero, and when the same ice will melt, CO2 will be released back to the atmosphere. Right? So this is what you have to remember that. Now I'm coming to the last part here. Long term part of the cycle. What is long term here? Dead plant matter, they get buried under Earth's crust, and then high pressure and temperature, carbonification takes place. This carbonification process and then form coal, fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is formed, and then what we do, we mine out, right? We do the mining. We carry out mining of coal, right? And this coal we burn. In thermal power plant, thermal power station or thermal power plants, then in home cooking, even furnace, etc. we burn there, industries, and that releases CO2 gas to the atmosphere. That goes to the atmosphere, burning process, and then this CO2 is taken by plant, photosynthesis, and then again when the plants die, this process happens. So now this is the long term part of the cycle. CO2 gas taken by plants, so plant it becomes a carbonic matter, organic matter. This carbonic matter, organic matter, when the plants die, death of the plants, they get buried, they get decomposed and buried under the earth's crust, high pressure, high temperature. Then there is a process carbonification, coal formation, and then we as a man, we do the mining of the coal, take out the coal, and then we burn it in different applications, and then CO2 goes there. So the process of formation of fossil fuel takes hundreds and thousands of years, which man easily take out from the earth crust. We do the mining and we burn it, release the CO2. Formation of coal takes long time, but burning takes in very short time. We burn it, release CO2. Now the same CO2 will take long time to become the fossil fuel, right? So this is one of the, you can say, problem linked with this type of part of here, right? So this I have given you part of the carbon cycle. I have already discussed there. जब मैं लास्ट ईयर आया था तो ये मैंने पढ़ाया भी था क्लास में. I have already gone through all the biogeochemical cycles. Pratap may be knowing that. Pratap and all those students who were there that time, they may be aware that I have discussed all the biogeochemical cycle. Pratap, am I right?
Yes, sir.
ये सब बताया था ना, नाइट्रोजन साइकिल, कार्बन साइकिल, वाटर साइकिल.
Yes, sir.
I think you may have in the recorded video also there. You can go to a recorded video also. Today I have just discussed that so that I can bring the part of it from the point of climate change, global warming, climate change. वो part we will be connecting with that. Those who are new to the class, that's what I've gone through that. But again, I'll request all of you to go to those recorded videos of that time which I've taken there, and that will become easier for you to understand also. But I'll be connecting to the inverter problems now. Is it clear, everyone? This one?
Yes, sir.
Shall I go to the next one? Have you all copied it? Okay. If you have copied it, I'll now go to this. Now let's look at understand here. Now this is important for the exam. Inverter problems that is connected with the carbon cycle. The very first thing which is now making a headline, this one. Ocean acidification. See what is happening here. We are taking those fossil fuel which were formed by long time period. We are easily mining them out and burning it, releasing the CO2 gas in the atmosphere. In one way, we have disturbed the carbon cycle. The carbon cycle has been now disturbed. So what is now happening here? First point is that more concentration of CO2 gas in the atmosphere. And why it is happening there? Because of burning of fossil fuel. Right from industrial revolution, which started in Europe and industrialized countries till present day, more than 200 years, mankind has been burning coal and fossil fuel in large quantity, right? So in the atmosphere, more concentrated CO2 gas in the atmosphere due to higher use of fossil fuels. Right, and the matter is mostly from the developed countries. They are using more and more. Developing countries also use there, but the use which is happening here. Now what will happen there? Higher absorption of CO2 gas by oceans. So ocean is a carbon sink, will take up more and more amount of CO2 gas, right? Higher absorption of CO2 gas by oceans and conversion into carbonate and bicarbonate and carbonic acids lead to acidification of ocean. So first I have explained what do you mean by ocean acidification. Why the ocean is getting acidified. That is pH of ocean water from alkaline, this being now pushed towards acidic side. And that is happening because of higher concentration of carbon dioxide. More and more CO2 gas by vehicular emission, by factories, by industries, by thermal power plant, more and more absorption by the ocean and the ocean water getting acidified. Now what are the negative impacts here? What will be the negative impacts of this kind of process? The first negative impact is that this will result into death of larvae and eggs of marine animals. Those marine animals, the young ones, they will not be able to survive. The larva or egg that will die because of acidic nature of water. They will not be able to tolerate that acidity level. Then again, it can also result into death of diatoms or phytoplanktons. They will also get affected because of acidic nature of water. Second thing, what happens, the symbiotic relation between algae and coral, that get disturbed. So it also results into coral bleaching. What is bleaching? When the algae come out of the coral will die. Coral becomes colorless. Bleaching because colorless, because corals don't have the color. The color is because of marine algae which live inside the corals. Now what is happening? Since algae get out of the corals will become colorless, will not get food and will die. Like for example, Great Barrier Reef is now facing high level of bleaching. So here coral bleaching, and if coral gets death of corals, the entire marine ecosystem will be impacted. That is a food chain, food web, right? That will have a massive impacts on marine food web. If diatoms is lost, diatoms are producers. Phytoplanktons, diatoms are eaten by zooplanktons, then other animals. If they get affected, the entire marine food web will be impacted. Marine food web. Drastic impact on marine food web. Another thing, another very big impact because of ocean acidification, that is a atmospheric formation of cloud formation, affect cloud formation that will get impacted. Why cloud formation will be impacted? Evaporation rate. There is something called cloud seeding. This see, diatoms and all, they release some kind of particles where the collection of water molecules and the seeding take place. That is where get affected because of acidification. If diatoms are lost, phytoplanktons are lost, then it also result into formation of that seeding effect, cloud seeding effect. I'll just take you to this part here. If we just take this one, I'm just writing here a very simple thing here. Ocean acidification. I'll take you to one research article here. Ocean acidification and cloud seeding and cloud formation. Let me write the word formation. Formation, this word you can understand this one. See here. You can read what is given here. Aerosols seed the formation of clouds which help cool the earth by reflecting sunlight. But in acidified ocean water, phytoplankton produces less DMS. This reduction of sulfur may lead to decreased cloud formation, raising global temperatures. DMS is a substance. That is the name of a substance that get formed there. Again, see, what are the effects of ocean acidification in the atmosphere? Ocean acidification is expected to have negative overall effects on many marine species. This could alter marine food chains and food supply to humans. Acidification could also decrease storm protection from reefs, tourism opportunities and other benefits that are difficult to value. Lot of articles. You'll find lot of articles there. See here. Ocean acidification causes effect. Ocean acidity affect climate. Can you see here this one? ocean acidification may lead to decreased cloud formation. It will affect water cycle and worsen global warming over time. Now this is what the articles are saying. It has come in the Hindu paper, Indian Express, lot of areas this was brought. So not only impact on marine life, but is overall going to be impact on the entire global climate. Right, entire global climate, that is going to be affected. This is what you find here. You will find all these notes, even coral bleaching also there. See here. Ocean acidification reduces the amount of carbonate. A key building block is seawater there. Why does ocean acidification cause cooling? Ocean acidification, Wikipedia, could affect rising temperature. All this you will find here when you go to here. That is different thing here, acetone and all. Even you can see here, there are certain videos also there. Right? You will come across there. A lot of videos you will come across. Right? Ocean acidification and all, you will find here. Even the biodiversity part of, right? You can see your microplantation. Right? So I'll do one thing here. You can just for 4 minutes watch this documentary. Ocean acidification, carbon dioxide, pollution there. Just watch this. See what you see, this is a coral bleaching. When the coral get bleached, they look like this. There is no algae inside the coral and ultimately the corals have died. This is what is happening with Great Barrier Reef. Right? And recovery from ocean warming can take thousands of years. See the global ocean acidification network. It shows all this. इस तरह के वेबसाइट को आपको पढ़ना है. Right? Such kind of website. You can see this ocean acidification which is causing the problem there. Right? You will find all of this. These are research articles which you will come across. Crab and all, they are getting dying. Now see, seal, walrus, they are getting affected. Again the coral reefs, right? Oceans current, that will get impacted. And you can see here, what is given here, global challenge of ocean acidification. But this is a very lengthy one. What I'll do here, I'll play this one. This is what you have seen there. This is one of the part which is being discussed here. Then you can see this one, acid oceans.
As I was growing up, climate change became such a dominant backdrop to how to think about the environment. Things like the Antarctic ozone hole and CO2 emissions and how it was a greenhouse gas and changing our planet in terms of warming. And the thing that we're studying most closely right now, we call it the other CO2 problem.
This morning we're going to go ahead and dive right here off the pier. And we're hoping just to do a beach dive and collect 10 or 15 red sea urchins that we're hoping to be able to bring back to the lab to do some ocean acidification experiments.
Basically, they are collecting the samples from oceans to test in the lab whether it is acidic or not.
Is that up until now, the world's ocean has absorbed something like a third of the CO2 that was released since the Industrial Revolution, and that's a lot.
You understand, 1/3 of CO2 absorbed by the oceans.
Ocean and literally alters the pH. So now what we're seeing is a little bit alarming because the pH of the ocean could change very rapidly. And we're not really sure that organisms have enough time to adapt to these rapid changes in ocean chemistry.
We've collected 2 species of sea urchins. This is Strongylus trotus purpuratus, also known as the purple sea urchin. And this one here is the red urchin, which is Strongylus trotus franciscanus.
As the oceans become more acidic, the carbonate levels are going to change such that they may affect organisms that rely on calcium carbonate to form their skeletons, like sea urchins.
For example, the adults here, you can see that the spines are made out of carbonate, the test, which is the endoskeleton structure, and then even on their oral end, this is their mouth, the teeth are made out of carbonate structures as well.
Even crab, there's made of calcium carbonate, the outer part of it. So there's a skeleton which is made of calcium carbonate. Now they're doing the testing of the level of acidification and impact on the formation of all this calcareous skeleton.
The way CO2 affects the ability of marine calcifiers to make their skeletons is that the CO2 dissolves into the ocean, changes the chemistry so that literally there are fewer carbonate ions around. And the carbonate ions you can kind of think as like the building blocks for their skeleton. If they can't get those out of the ocean, they're not going to be able to build their skeleton as effectively. And it is this connection, the CO2 to the pH, reducing the availability of carbonate ion, that makes it so difficult for them to make their skeletons. The goal of our research is to understand whether marine calcifiers, like sea urchins, will be able to make their hard parts. Will they be able to make their skeletons in the oceans that we know are coming? All we do is mix gas and bubble it into our larval cultures, change the pH of the water by bubbling in CO2, and basically make future oceans right in our tanks down here. And then we ask the larvae to try to develop in them and show us what they got.
So this is the urchin, sea urchin. They have collected from ocean. So in the lab they put into those kind of urchin, same kind of environment, and they try to test.
But that skeleton is shorter and they're just basically a little bit stumpier than they would be if they grew up normally. It's really hard to see these subtle differences when they're swimming and moving under the scope. So we collect thousands of images of lots of different individual larvae, and we do measurements on all their little hard parts. And most of the metrics are shrinking by about 10 to 15%. So what we think this says for sea urchins in general is that although the larvae are able to make their little skeletons, this seems to come at a cost. An embryo only has so much energy to do its development, and one of the things we're learning is that they're becoming much more sensitive to high temperature. We've got an acidifying ocean, and we've also got an ocean that's warming. When we think about the ecology of this in a climate change context, what you end up with is sort of an ecosystem that's out of whack, it's out of balance. If we don't change the technology that we use right now and we continue to emit CO2 at the level that we're doing so, we're looking at an ocean that is much more acidic. We're looking at an ocean that has fewer organisms in it, And we're looking at a planet that will be completely changed in our lifetime.
Right? So you understood what is basically being talked about here in this documentary. So, understanding becomes really very, very important. When you are there, you have to always understand the real aspect of it. Any doubt? Did you understand things which I mentioned here? How the cloud formation will get affected, how the marine life will be affected. Yes? See, that's what I said. When you are in the UPSC preparation part, you have to always think of to understand the basic thing. करंट अफेयर मटेरियल आप लोग पढ़ते हैं, लेकिन केवल आप पढ़ते हैं, समझते नहीं हैं. You have to understand. If you understand, if you read, understand, you will always remember it. If you simply read and memorize rectification, you will be lost in the exam hall. UPSC will always ask question from an understanding point of view. ये चीज़ है. मैंने देखा है बहुत सारे अभी आजकल नए नए एजुकेटर्स आ चुके हैं ना, केवल बताना, समझाना नहीं होता है. एंड दैट इज वेयर द रियल प्रॉब्लम लाइज. इफ यू अंडरस्टैंड एंड learn, you will never forget. And I've given you idea there. That's what why I've written that reaction. Why I've written this reaction? This reaction, I have written the reaction so that you are able to understand this. Carbonate and bicarbonate, carbonic acid, which become the part of the skeleton of the marine animals. Right? UPSC is not going to ask you that university or college or lab experiment. That is not the part. But the thing is that you are knowing that because of such acidification, what impacts will be on marine life or marine environment. Right? So that is what I have discussed as part of the first thing, that is a ocean acidification. Now what I will do here, I will now go to the global warming climate change. Global warming and climate change. You all know that carbon dioxide gas is a greenhouse gas, right? You all aware that CO2 gas is a greenhouse gas. And what does this kind of gas does? Greenhouse gas trap the heat, trap the infrared radiation, right? That trap outgoing long wavelength, like here where the wavelength and the heat content is higher, long wavelength infrared radiation. They cannot penetrate from the earth's surface. So if let's say this is the earth here, earth is made of continents and ocean. So what happens here? When the sunlight which reach to the earth's surface, right? So there will be a part of the sunlight will get reflected. What is something called albedo effect from ice or from smooth surface, it get reflected there. Another thing, what will happen? The earth will absorb. There is something called absorption and re-emission. There is also emission there. When the land becomes hot, it releases infrared radiation. This is IR, long wavelength radiation. When the land and water become warm, hot, it gives out the radiations. Now this greenhouse gas here, the greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide gas or greenhouse gas that will not allow this long wavelength to pass through it. Carbon dioxide gas will not allow this radiation to cross, will absorb it. It almost like a blanket. It acts like a blanket. Now what will happen there? Same radiation will come back. Same will get reflected. Some part will be absorbed. There is absorption of infrared radiation. It will become warm there, warm in the atmosphere. That will result into warming in upper atmosphere. Warming of atmosphere will be there. At the same time, what will happen there? This get also reflected there. Certain amount of IR radiation will get reflected back. And when this IR will come back again, what will result into? It will again lead to absorption by Earth's surface. It will again lead to the absorption by the Earth's surface and warming. Suppose that this blanket of CO2 gas, the radiation, IR radiation which is going there, some part will be absorbed because it will not allow it to pass through, will absorb, heating will be there, warming of the atmosphere, and other part will come back, return back. Again the land and water, continental ocean will absorb the infrared and it will become hot, again warm, again will release the infrared, again it will be absorbed and again radiate back, again they will be heated up. So gradually over a time period, slowly Earth's temperature will increase. That's what we call global warming, right? So this is what we call as global warming there. What is global warming? When there is a rise, an increase in average temperature of Earth's surface. And why it is happening so? Because of greenhouse effect. What I have drawn on the diagram, this is called greenhouse effect. What you see right now, this is known as greenhouse effect. Trapping of the heat of the Earth's surface. And then this long wavelength infrared which come back, again have been absorbed, again the Earth will become warm, again will give out radiation, again will come back, again Earth will absorb, again warm up. So gradually, slowly it picks up there, becomes warmer and warmer. Right? That is where global warming comes into that. Right? So what is global warming? So when we say global warming, what it refers to? It refers to increase. That refers to increase in average temperature. Increase in average temperature of Earth's surface. And Earth's surface is made of both land and water, continents and ocean. So what is global warming? Refers to increase, this one, increase in average temperature of Earth's surface due to greenhouse effect. Due to greenhouse effect, and carbon dioxide gas is one of the prime greenhouse gas. Greenhouse effect caused by greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. These greenhouse gases which in atmosphere, carbon dioxide gas, methane, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbon, hydrofluorocarbon, all these are greenhouse gases which accumulate in the atmosphere. And the natural sources are also there. But what is the big problem there? The big problem is anthropogenic sources. Human activities, economic activities, burning of fossil fuels, we are generating such kind of gases to the atmosphere, causing this kind of problem. and carbon dioxide is one of them. CO2 gas is one of such gas, and main thing is the fossil fuel, burning of fossil fuel. That is the main thing, right? Are you all able to understand? Any doubt you have?
No, sir.
है ना, ये चीज़ समझना है, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. आई विल कम टू ऑल द ग्लोबल थिंग एंड ऑल, बट ये सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है कि क्यों हो रहा है. क्या हुआ? इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन, राइट? औद्योगिक क्रांति इन यूरोपियन कंट्रीज, अमेरिकाज, यूरोप एंड ऑल, they started burning more and more fossil fuel. And even today, America, USA is the highest emitter of carbon. कार्बन एमिशन की अगर हम बात करें, ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस की बात करें, तो सबसे ज़्यादा जो है वो अमेरिका है, यूएसए. बट इज नॉट ओनली द मैटर ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियलाइज्ड कंट्रीज. नाउ यू नो दैट इवन डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज, China, you know that. China is known for manufacturing and all. China is now has become very polluting. China is emitting a lot of greenhouse gases. India is also slowly, but one good thing about India is that large mass of Indian population are rural. But problem क्या है कि इंडिया में भी अर्बनाइजेशन हो रहा है. Slowly and slowly we will also go into more industrialization, more urbanization. So we are also bound to release more carbon dioxide gas and more greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, and that will really cause problem. So now the matter is not only industrialized countries, developed countries like US, Canada, Australia, Japan, European countries. Now it has also gone to the developing countries like India, China, Brazil, South Africa. They also become the part of it. तो ये हो गया बेसिक कंसेप्ट कि व्हाट इज द ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, राइट? बट व्हेन वी से क्लाइमेट चेंज, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट क्लाइमेट चेंज, तो व्हाट इज चेंज? क्लाइमेट चेंज, सी क्लाइमेट, व्हेन वी से क्लाइमेट, क्लाइमेट इज द लॉन्ग टर्म काइंड ऑफ थिंग. 30 years, 30 years, temperature, pressure, precipitation, all meteorological parameters which are changed, which are looked from 30 years perspective. That's called climate. Weather, when you say weather, weather is a short term. Like today we say what is the weather of today? It's warm, humid, so and so. But when you say climate, we're talking long term, 30 years time period. So what is climate change? Climate change, this refers to changes, that refers to changes in climatic parameters. Changes in climatic parameters such as, one is the temperature, then humidity, precipitation, rainfall. Precipitation is the rainfall. Then pressure, wind, all these which happens over long time, right? Changes in the climatic parameters, this one, right? Over an interval, we take here over an interval of 30 years and more. And why it has been there? This is being caused by global warming. So global warming is resulting into the changes in climatic conditions, and global warming is the increase in temperature of Earth's surface, and that is because of greenhouse effect caused by greenhouse gases. So if we take here this one, I can simply say that greenhouse gases cause greenhouse effect. This is being caused by greenhouse gases such as, one is the carbon dioxide gas, methane, nitrous oxide, then sulfur hexafluoride, then chlorofluorocarbon, freon used as refrigeration, hydrofluorocarbon, perfluorocarbon, even ozone, right, even water vapor, H2O, all these are greenhouse gases. And because of this, this result into what we call as a change, increase in temperature of the earth surface. That is a global warming. This causes the global warming. That is increase in temperature. Increase in temperature of the earth. And because of change in temperature, it affects wind, pressure, rainfall, all the things there. So this is where is causing the problem with respect to what we say climate change. The entire change of condition here, changes in climatic condition. And that is happening at local level, regional level, and also globalist level, right? This is what is happening worldwide. So this is the part which are interconnected. All these three terms are interconnected to each other, right? I will now come to climate change impacts, and then we'll see about Paris Agreement and all, Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement, which have been UNFCCC, and that part of it. ठीक है, ये यहाँ तक क्लियर है आप लोगों को? You are able to understand there कि one is the cause of another, one lead to another. That's what I'm referring the. I'm giving the points also there. This is the cause of warming. Warming is the cause of climate change. Now we'll see what are the impacts are there, climate change impacts and all. और अभी क्या रिपोर्ट आया, अभी न्यूज़ में क्या आया हुआ है कि इस बार का टेम्परेचर फरवरी में, आप सभी को पता है कि जनरली गर्मी जो है होली के बाद आता है ना? होली के बाद मार्च के महीने में लोग ठंडे पानी से नहाया करते थे. इस बार क्या हुआ, फरवरी में ही हीट बढ़ गया. और न्यूज़पेपर में ये आर्टिकल आया है ना, हिंदू पेपर में, इंडियन एक्सप्रेस ये कवर किया गया कि दिस टाइम द टेम्परेचर इन द मंथ ऑफ फरवरी इज हायर देन द लास्ट 17 ईयर्स. 17 ईयर्स से जितना टेम्परेचर उससे ज़्यादा हाई रहा है फरवरी में, राइट? अभी न्यूज़ में. और अभी क्या न्यूज़ में रहा है, कल का टोर्नाडो, यूएस में टोर्नाडो आया. और हर साल क्या आता है, साइक्लोन आता है. बहुत सारे इम्पैक्ट्स है ना, और ये न्यूज़ में हमेशा कवर होता है. अभी बहुत रिसेंटली आईपीसीसी का रिपोर्ट आया हुआ है, इंटर गवर्नमेंटल पैनल ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज रिपोर्ट. ये कह रहे हैं कि गवर्नमेंट जो है 1.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस तक टेम्परेचर को लिमिट करना बेस्ड ऑन इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन. इफ यू टेक प्री इंडस्ट्रियल रिवोल्यूशन एरा एंड फ्रॉम देयर द टेम्परेचर x प्लस 1.5 वहाँ तक रोकने में पॉसिबल नहीं हो पाएगा. एंड द ड्रास्टिक इम्पैक्ट्स आर बीइंग देयर, कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस आर देयर, right? So now what I'll do here, now let's understand here. So given this fact, so you know that climate change impact, because of change in climatic conditions, so lot of now impacts are being felt, and climate change impacts. And you all know that every textbook, every current affairs material will discuss that. Like for example, first is this one, extreme weather event. Extreme weather events. तो क्या क्या एक्सट्रीम वेदर इवेंट्स है? यू नो दैट, फॉर एग्जाम्पल हीट वेव. हीट वेव यूरोप, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, टेम्परेट रीजन जो कि रिलेटिवली कूलर होता है, नाउ दे आर गेटिंग वार्म, दे आर गेटिंग इम्पैक्टेड बिकॉज ऑफ हीट वेव. यूरोप में कभी ऐसा नहीं होता, जर्मनी वहाँ पर हीट वेव. इंडिया में हीट वेव का इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ वार्मर टेम्परेचर. अगेन यू नो दैट this one, tropical cyclone, right, hurricane, टोर्नाडोज, ये जो ऐसे जो इवेंट है वो बढ़ता ही जा रहा है. Again that linked with temperature factor. Then again you know that El Nino, you have read in geography, El Nino effect getting intensified. What happens in El Nino? In El Nino what happens is that Australia and other side the Peru, Pacific Ocean. What happens? The ocean water condition, the temperature. So the warm water and the colder water because of ocean current. So whenever the El Nino effect happens, there is heavy rainfall towards the Peru coast, right? The warmer water was the current, and drought condition happened towards the Australia side. ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillation. This is what is now getting intensified. And again, what is happening here? Changes in precipitation pattern, rainfall. अब जैसे इंडिया के केस में मानसून बेट गेटिंग इम्पैक्टेड, रेनफॉल पैटर्न गेटिंग इम्पैक्टेड. So temperature is rising every year and causing the problem there. Second, you know that, second what will be there? This one, sea level rise, SLR. And now why is sea level rise? SLR. Two things are there. Sea level rise because of one, you know, melting of polar ice and mountain glacier there, and glaciers. Because of warming, they are melting there. The more inflow of water to the ocean. And second is the thermal expansion. Ocean water, which is warm water, it expands. Thermal expansion of warm ocean water. That again lead to sea level rise. And again, what will happen there? It will result into coastal submergence. Coastal areas will get submerged. Coastal submergence. Then, you know, sinking of island. The island nations, let's say Fiji, Maldives, Lakshadweep, they all will get underwater. Right? They are now facing that problem there. They are getting underwater, they are drowning. Even the coastal area, Mumbai, Chennai, or New York, or Beijing, whatever the countries are there worldwide, which are coastal site, coastal areas are getting submerged. A huge economic impact, social impact. People will be forced to migrate. They will be forced to migrate there from their house and all. Again, that is triggered through climate change impact. They are getting impacted through climate change there, right? You all are aware of this one. Again, what are the other impacts? Agriculture impact, food security, biodiversity loss, health impact. Multiple issues are there linked with this kind of climate change impacts. I'll now write there, I'll write that one. I hope you are writing these all points. So I'll write the point here. So let's look at this one, third one. Third one is this one. Biodiversity loss. Suppose that here extinction of species. It is said that Earth is going towards sixth mass extinction. Mass extinction means millions of species will be lost at one go. Because if temperature change, the entire biological clock, biological cycle of migration, breeding, right, birth, death of all the small animals will change. Amphibians, reptiles, birds, they change there. Now here, now extinction part, if you look at, there are many factors are there. Like for example, migration. Migration pattern of birds, because birds migrate because of change of seasons, that impacted, that is being impacted. Change of season, Siberian grain coming to India. But now the kind of seasonal change, that is varying, that is changing. The entire migration pattern will change. Then again here, this one, breeding, the reproduction breeding pattern affected due to change in seasons. Let's say marine turtles, olive lily turtles, which come to Odisha, Andhra Pradesh for laying eggs. They migrate to the coastal side to lay eggs for breeding purpose. That is getting affected. Birds which migrate to lay egg, breeding, that is getting affected. So again this part. Then again here, habitat loss. Habitat loss due to, let's say, wildfire, California wildfire, Australia bushfire. In India also we are having now witnessing a lot of forest fires. So when the forest will burn, forest fire, birds, mammals, reptiles, whatever species are there, they will be lost. Polar bear, which live on the Arctic. If the Arctic ice melt, polar bear will die. Polar bear will not have place to live. Penguins will not have a place to live when the ice will be melting. So again here, due to wildfire, habitat loss. Then again, melting of this one, polar ice. So habitat loss will be there. So a lot of that impact will be there. Then you know that, again you know, coral bleaching. When the coral reef will bleach, coral reefs are called rainforest of sea and ocean. Many of the marine animals, they depend on coral reefs. If the corals will die, like for example, Great Barrier Reef is in danger, the entire marine ecosystem will be impacted. Right? So that is now becoming the climate change impacts. That is getting impacted there. Right? And more, why? Because most of the higher concentration of greenhouse gas is a CO2, carbon dioxide gas, because of burning of fossil fuels. Although methane is also rising, other gases also rising, but still we talk about greenhouse gases, more quantity comes from CO2, carbon dioxide gas. Right? So coral bleaching can have impact. Right? Then what I've said here, apart from this, I've said here, health impact, human health impact. Like I'll tell you here, death caused due to heat wave. People may die because of heat wave. Right? They may not be able to tolerate such a hot condition. It happens in India also there, health impact. Then again, you know that another thing will be what? Another thing is this one. Waterborne diseases. Such as, let's say, vector-borne, like you know, malaria, dengue. Right? Then these are mosquito-borne. Mosquito breed on water. When there is water flooding, when the flooding will take place, all these kind of vectors, mosquitoes will grow, and that will spread disease to humans. Not only this one, you even know that other disease like cholera, bacterial infection, diarrhea, that will spread. Sometimes you know parasitic disorder, leptospirosis. Kerala flood. After Kerala flood, there were a problem. People got infected with leptospirosis. Again, that is a link with flooding condition. And why is the flooding? Because of climate change, sea level rise, heavy rainfall. Again, that part is there. Again here, death due to these natural calamities which are triggered because of climate change. Let's say such as for example cyclones, Sundarban Delta, Sundarban Delta get affected by cyclones every year, and those people who live in the coastal area, either they will lose their life or they will be suffering with some kind of problem, even the loss, economic loss, that can happen there, right? Even it's saying that scientists are saying that emergence of new pathogens, new disease causing pathogens, like if you see the pattern now over the last 10 years, Ebola, swine flu, bird flu, right? Now COVID-19, so many viruses, so many such kind of things they are coming there. Now recently there was in news zombie virus, zombie. What is zombie? Zombie means dead persons who are walking, they are called zombies. Now within the ice, remember that polar ice, there may be ancient viruses which are locked up in the ice. Now imagine that ice melt, so this virus will come out. New disease emergence. When there will be wildfire, remember that there is a forest fire, the animals will come out of the forest and man will get in contact with the animals. Zoonotic. What is zoonotic disease? A disease which get transmitted from animals to humans. They come from animals to humans. Animals are host. They are the host of virus. And now when the animal will come in contact with humans, human will get transmitted disease. And this will happen why? Because of habitat loss, where animals come out of their natural habitats, right? So emergence of new pathogens causing new disease. Again here, more zoonotic diseases which come from animals. Now animals here means not only the chimpanzee, gorilla and all in Africa, but also birds like Nipah virus, bat, fruit bat. Even they are also carriers of disease, right? Viruses also mutation of virus. They evolve with the temperature. As the temperature become more warm, fungi, bacteria, virus, they will all mutate, they will all change, and they will become more dangerous, right? So more zoonotic diseases due to contact between man and animals who are affected due to habitat loss. Because habitat loss, forest fire and all, they will come out of the wild and we will get in contact with them, thereby getting the disease. Huge economic burden due to healthcare system will be because of climate change. It is already happening now. It is already taking place. Right? This is what I have written here. Human health impacts. Number of factors are there. Right? All these reports, IPCC report, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change reports, have brought all this one. Then the agriculture impact, ecosystem impact. If you look at here, agriculture and food security. Already UN is warning that there is a food scarcity worldwide because of climate change impact. Even water, available water scarcity. That is also linked with global warming, climate change. So here, if you take here agriculture, food, so here decrease in rainfall. Like for India, monsoon, that is getting affected. Then drought condition, drought and famine condition. That will have a direct impact on food security. Decline in crop yield because of changing weather pattern. Why crop yield will decline? Because we don't have those kind of a paddy or wheat adapted to climate change. what is something called here climate smart agriculture. Those type of crops which are resilient, tolerant to high temperature. Now scientists are working to develop those kind of varieties. You know that government of India and also at the global level, millet. This year is the International Year of Millets. Why millet is giving focus? Because one is that today more consumption come from paddy, rice field, and there is emission of methane gas. Right? Millet is more healthier than rice. Rice contains more sugar, more carbohydrate. Millet has got low glycemic index. Millet can be grown less water, doesn't require too much of water. Jowar, barley, bajra, all these are millets. So these all things are now getting all connected there. So again, decline crop yields, because rice, wheat and all, as the global warming will happen more and more, so their productivity will decline, will decrease, right? Crop yield due to changes in climatic pattern here, changes in weather conditions here, and that is triggered by because of global warming. That is being triggered by global warming, right? So decline in food, so global food crisis, right? Resulting into food crisis, food production decline, causing crisis there. Emergency situation. Again, what the report is saying? Report is saying this one. Ecological refugees. One refugee we talk about impacted by war or ethnic violence. But another type of refugees are they are forced migrate because of climate change impact. Island getting submerged, coastal areas getting impacted, sea level rise, global weather pattern changes. Here, forced migration of people impacted by calamities. All those calamities triggered by climate change. Triggered by climate change. And what it will lead to? Now the food resource is also declining. Triggered by climate change, food resources, available resources are also going down. Now the people will migrate. So that will be also cause political instability and also fight, conflict. So this will again rise in conflicts due to scarce resource. Resources are getting scarce. So that will result into competition, infighting. Even UN is now looking for such kind of refugees which are not covered under Geneva Convention. Geneva Convention talks about refugees which are affected by war, some war, then violence and all this one, but it doesn't talk about environment and climate based or ecological refugees there. Now the UN is coming out with a framework how to address such kind of crisis, human crisis. Right? All this comes from IPCC report, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report. That brings all these highlights. Right? That is where it comes into such kind of report there. Right? Anything you want to ask? What I'm discussing here? Are you able to understand here?
Yes, sir.
Current affairs, you have to link with current affairs. Whatever the latest reports are saying about, you have to connect with that. So, in order to address this, you know that the initiatives which have been now brought, so there is a very landmark convention called UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. UN Convention. I write the full form here. UN framework. It's a framework convention. It's not a completely binding convention. Framework convention on climate change. Now this particular convention was brought in 1992. This was brought in Rio Earth Summit in 1992. Right, Agenda 21, Rio Earth Summit, Prithvi Sammelan, Earth Summit. There, this was brought. Now, what is the objective here? It has got three objectives. It has three objectives. I am giving you the infographic there. Three objectives are there. Now, what are those objectives? I'll bring here. First objective is that to limit temperature below 2 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial revolution level by 2100, by the end of 21st century. Temperature of the earth should not go beyond 2 degrees Celsius. To limit temperature below 2 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial revolution level by the end of the century, this century, 21st century. By the end of the century, temperature should not exceed more than 2 degrees Celsius. And in Paris agreement, in Paris summit, what we call as a Conference of Parties 21st, COP21, in 2015, governments agreed to limit to 1.5 degrees Celsius. In Paris summit, government, they came out of consensus that they will work towards achieving 1.5, which seems impossible. IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is a UN body, is warning that this will not be possible. The way the emissions are there will not be possible there. Second objective here is that there is something called your mitigation. As the climate change impact is being felt, right? So worldwide mitigation and adaptation strategies. There has to be this kind of strategies. Like for example, you know that, like clean technology, adoption of clean technology. Now you know from fossil fuel, we have to go to non-fossil fuel. That is here renewable energy, solar power, wind power, biomass power. That shift has to be now done there. Promotion of electric vehicle, better technology, clean technology, hydrogen, use of hydrogen future, solar power, wind power, all this one. Then again, climate smart agriculture, that we have to have agriculture which is adapted to all such impacts of global warming, right? There we have to go into that. Again, not only this one, climate smart agriculture, then again, what is another thing here? Indian government has brought this one, life for environment, lifestyle for environment, changes in lifestyle. So all this adaptation and mitigation measures at the global level, energy, agriculture, transport, businesses, that have to move. And the third thing which comes here, that is industrialized countries, right? Industrialized developed countries, which also include European Union developed countries. They are called Annex 1. They are called as Annex 1 countries to provide climate finance. to fight climate change, climate finance, right? Who will provide? Industrialized countries, climate finance and technologies and clean technologies to developing countries, so that developing countries can also limit the carbon emission, right? Which are called non-Annex 1 countries. They are called as a non-Annex 1 countries under the convention. It is mandatory under the Paris Agreement and even the Climate Change Convention that fund has to be given, technology have to be given from developed countries to developing countries. So there is something called here, what has been made here, Green Climate Fund, GCF. There is a fund called as a Green Climate Fund, which has been set up. Hundreds of billions of US$ fund given to developing countries so that they can adapt to the climate change impacts. This is being talked about. अभी रिसेंटली में COP27 शर्म एल शेख इजिप्ट में हुआ था. अगर आप करंट अफेयर्स की बात करेंगे तो करंट अफेयर्स पर्सपेक्टिव में अभी रिसेंटली इन इजिप्ट देयर वाज COP27 कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ पार्टीज 27th. क्लाइमेट चेंज समिट टेक्स प्लेस एवरी ईयर और इस साल 2023 it will be in Saudi Arabia. This year Saudi Arabia is the host of COP28 Conference of Parties 28th summit 2022. You know that the summit was held in Egypt, Sharm el Sheikh. Loss and damage fund. What type of fund? Loss and damage fund given to most vulnerable countries impacted by climate change. Let's say island nation, island countries, Fiji and all this one. COP26 Glasgow summit, right? That was in 2021, Scotland, UK, Glasgow summit. Again, clean technology, green grid initiative, intercontinental grid, all these have been given importance. So not only green climate fund, but also now what has been added here? Loss and damage fund. We'll come across loss and damage fund, LDF. That's being now agreed by the government. Earlier it was green climate fund, now loss and damage funds have been brought into here. So key points, you have to know the key points, important points. Whenever you read, you have to know all such important points and the key points there, right? Any doubt? Are you able to understand here? Dipti, Rahul, Sovik.
Yes, sir.
Are you writing also?
Yes, sir, writing.
Yes, sir.
ये मैं एक फ्लो चार्ट में सारे पॉइंट्स को रख रहा हूँ मैं, है ना, सो दैट व्हेन यू रिवाइज यू नो दैट ओके these are 3 objectives of the conventions. Let me write also there. These are 3 objectives. We'll discuss more points, but this I have just in the beginning I have given here 3 objectives. Not let the temperature go beyond 2 degrees Celsius, but now it seems very impossible. Governments are not working towards that. What we'll do, Paris Agreement, Kyoto Protocol, carbon market, and again Glasgow summit, then Sharm el Sheikh and all which came in current news and all, we'll discuss in the next class. And I will also go to the Vienna Convention, Montreal Protocol, ozone depletion and all these areas. That also I'll cover tomorrow there. And Friday, the last class, I'll go towards the pollution topics there, air, water, land and all those areas. which again very very important, which will be covering that. But did you understand my approach? Climate change will still continue with in the next session. It's not complete there. We'll cover more points, more concepts in the next session. But did you understand the approach? How to go about? How to start from a carbon cycle and then connecting with negative impacts and all those kind of areas. You have to connect static with the dynamic, static with the applied area, static with the current affairs. Have you all copied it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll do one thing here. Let me just right from beginning, I'm giving a recap here. So we started with carbon cycle, short term, long term. We discussed photosynthesis, respiration, death and decomposition part, natural process, anthropogenic process. Then we have gone into this another process, ocean takes up carbon dioxide. Then we have discussed dry ice, solid carbon dioxide. Then long term we have discussed buried into fossil fuel. We do the mining and then we burn it. Then we discussed water problem, ocean acidification, negative impacts. Then we have gone to global warming, climate change, and what is greenhouse effect, what is global warming, what is climate change. Then we have discussed about climate change impacts, and all these impacts comes under which report? You know that IPCC report. That is a UN body which comes out with climate change reports, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So these all reports are based on that. Extreme weather events, sea level rise, right? There are many such impacts there. Biodiversity loss, extinction of species, health impacts, agriculture, food security, ecological refugees. Then I have discussed UNFCCC 1992 Rio Earth Summit and I mentioned 3 objectives: limiting temperature 2 degrees Celsius, adaptation, mitigation, and then developed countries to give finance and technology to developing countries. Green Climate Fund, and then now the loss and damage funds, right? Any doubt, any question up till here? कोई भी चीज़ है जो आप पूछना चाहते हैं? And I hope that you are writing it together. Whatever I'm discussing that, you are writing that one. We'll discuss more climate change. अभी बहुत सारा है. That will do in the next session. So this is part 1. We'll go to the part 2.
Okay, sir.
So shall we end the session here? And please keep on reading the current affairs. Current affairs becomes very important there. Those who are going to appear this year exam, so please go through current affairs linking with all these areas there, right? So then we'll meet in the next session. So we'll stop here. So thank you. Take care of yourself. So
Thank you, sir.
yeah, we'll meet in the next one. We'll continue with the topic of climate change, then ozone layer, and then we'll go into the other type of environmental problems and all this pollution part of it. All right. So okay. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.